What's up, rock stars? Today's going to be a great day because this video right here is going to get you all caught up on a whole bunch of Kickstarter goodness, a whole bunch of updates, some new game announcements, some big news items, some big reveals. We're talking like major stuff here, so strap in, stay tuned, and let's get to it. As always, I'd like to start out with a quick shout out to my patrons and YouTube members. Without their support, I could not do this as independently, as often, and as good of quality as I can. The current lighting I have is thanks to them. The camera I have is thanks to them. The fact that I'm able to pump out 2 videos every week is thanks to them because of the moral support and the huge boon that they give me. But you know what? All you guys out there just in the comments, commenting and liking and telling me how things are and what you think of different things. I love it. I live for it. So thank you for doing that. If you'd like to support but can't financially do so, you can always check out the merch, check out the Amazon, do stuff like that, maybe pause an ad blocker, or even just like the video. It's all helpful, and it's really, really what makes you guys so awesome. So let's go ahead and get into the news now. Alright, so real quick, I just wanted to talk about some good things that are happening in this industry. The world is full of negative news. This industry is even full of negative news, and I will cover that, of course, but I want to highlight some of the gems, some of the really good things happening out there too, just to cheer up your day a little bit and not start on the wrong foot. If I can help it. Sometimes if there's no good news, there's no good news. I can't make it up. A little bit of a plug. This is The Kingdom. It's my Facebook group. Link in the description below. Of course, actually, there will be a ton of links in the description below, so feel free to scroll down and open that in a new tab, or after the video, come back and look at open what you need to open or whatever, but I'll be linking to a lot of this in the description below. I always try to do that. I started this group because pretty much all the other Facebook groups around board games are not concerned about supporting people who actually make things. They're concerned about just the consumers, which is great and is awesome, and I appreciate that. But there needs to be a group that is open to a developer talking about developing their game and like wanting to interact in that level, or, you know, hey, we're making this, can you do this or whatever. But the moment they say, hey, we're making this, it's, oh no, you're plugging your game, you know, don't talk here. Or other content creators. There are so many people making awesome unboxings and reviews and miniature painting videos and all that, and I wanted them to feel free to come to a place where the creators and the consumers can meet. So that was kind of the idea of the Kingdom. So that's kind of what I started here, where you're free to post a video if you made a video and it's interesting and cool. I'd love to see it. I'm sure other people would love to see it. Post it here. So anyway, that's kind of the idea here, and here's an example of it happening. So Dan here asked about Mythic Battles Ragnarok, saying, hey, when's that coming out? And Matt said, hey, it won't be June. There's not really a date. And Dan said, is there anything you can give me? And Matt came back, and this is Matt John from Monolith, by the way. He said, we've reshuffled many things, but it's still something we really want to do. We must first see to the projects we've already funded before looking to the future. Certainly before we provide hard dates. What a concept for a company that lives and breathes Kickstarter. That's how they make their money. That's how they survive as a company. To still have the respect of their backers enough to not just launch 4 Kickstarters for every 2 games that they deliver, constantly having to split off development teams and splitting up their time and delaying everything and not able to manage everything and making mistakes. That's awesome. Seriously, the fact that they respect us that much. They want to deliver the games that you and I paid for. They want to deliver the games that they're on the hook for, and then they'll ask for more money. And you know what? I'm more likely to give it to them, because I'm more likely to think that they'll spend the time on that game just like they spent the time on this other game. That is awesome, and I love seeing that attitude. More Kickstarter companies need to have a delivery attitude, not just a publishing attitude, or not just a asking attitude. Tons of Kickstarter companies love to ask for money. Not a lot of Kickstarter companies love to deliver games. Think about that. Speaking of delivering a game, what a huge, wild roller coaster this was. This was Sheol. And Lunar Arc Studio managed to pull it off. They were successfully funded. It was like the last hour. It was close. If they hadn't made it, this would have been, and this is still a really good example of putting a low amount needed. So if you need 300,000, don't put 300,000 in the Kickstarter. I'll explain why in just a second, but just don't. Go ahead and do it early. Go ahead and do the the stretch goals. That's fine too if you want, or just do daily ones that you can control, or whatever it is. I like the daily ones because you can control it. That means you are still in control of how big this gets. You can't get scope creep that way or anything like that. I think it's really smart. However, the reason I say this is because, for instance, Arena the contest, Tenaris Adventures, whatever you want to call it, they released some awesome detail about their pledge manager. I don't remember if I covered this or not, but in their pledge manager alone, outside of Kickstarter, they have made over $600,000 more. That's late pledgers. That's people adding on to their stuff. All of that is accumulating up to $600,000 that they didn't get on Kickstarter. So how do you know, how does Joan of Arc know how much money extra they'll make in the pledge manager after the Kickstarter? If they made $300,000 in the pledge manager, they could have put $0 on the Kickstarter and still delivered, but they don't know that. You can't know that. So what you do is you put it low and then you do your best to judge how you're doing along the way. But put it low. If you need 300, don't assume that that's the only money you'll get and nothing will come from the pledge manager. If you're assuming nothing will do that, then you're probably assuming your board game isn't good, in which case you probably shouldn't be trying to sell it. So I'm assuming they're assuming that it'll do good, and therefore you should keep that in kind of your projections. So anyway, I'm glad they did good. They should have lowered that dollar amount, I feel. But either way, they stuck through it, and they didn't cancel it right away, and it was successfully funded, and good for them. Next up, we have Aeon Trespass Odyssey. Into the Unknown, again, is still being a rock star in this day and age on Kickstarter, just along here with Monolith. This is awesome. I want to share this. So, timeline update. Guess what? Things are delayed. Right now, they're 99% asset ready, which means all the, art and miniatures and stuff like that are pretty much done, so now they're just developing it. However, it's delayed until Q1 2021. You know what that means? Kingdoms Forlorn is also delayed because, just like Monolith, they do not want to ask for more money until we're done with Aeon Trespass Odyssey. Again, good job, Into the Unknown. Seriously. The fact that these companies are doing this puts all these other companies to shame. If you're a company that's just spitting out Kickstarter after Kickstarter after Kickstarter and not actually delivering your games, deliver your darn games. Again, Kickstarter companies are interested in pitching for more money, not delivering games. Deliver games. That's awesome. Good for them. Okay, next thing. No VAT on games. I'm going to talk briefly about this. So this has been a big thing on my Discord lately with my patrons. I'm imagining it's also been here on the Kickstarter comments and various places like that. But essentially, VAT is a value-added tax, or I believe that's what it stands for, something like that. Either way, most European countries do. In fact, a lot of countries do a VAT-style tax. America's not one of them, so it's a foreign concept to me. But from what I understand, essentially, if you import goods, whatever that good is worth, you're taxed on that, and it's typically a pretty high percentage. So that makes importing goods very expensive. Now, that money has to be paid from somewhere. So there are really three options for a company to do. The worst one they could probably do is just charge the customer. Hey, you live in Europe, you have to pay that tax. That makes it incredibly expensive, which means they probably aren't going to be importing anything from you. So the only other two options are somehow the company is paying for it. Now, if the company pays for that tax, you can do a few things. You can make it to where everybody's paying more in shipping, right? And so even like me as an American, I'd be paying $5 more in shipping. Than I should, than what actually costs me. And that $5 is going towards somebody else's VAT, European backers' VAT tax. And then, of course, the people in Europe are also, that same percentage above, and everybody, and it distributes the cost that the company would have to pay for, because the company has to pay for it from something. The other way you could do it is by increasing the price. So it's not shipping, it's just the price. In other words, your profit margins are so much higher that you're just essentially saying, hey, $5 extra on top of the profit margin we already have, and then that'll soak up the cost. The other way of doing it is actually to lower your profit margin for those backers. And that is what Into the Unknown has done here. So essentially, they make less money when they sell to a European backer. And that's thanks to just their taxes and how the world works. But that is an awesome way to do it. And again, congrats on them. So I'm not paying extra for backer in Europe to get their stuff. I'm not paying for anybody else's stuff but my own, which is awesome. As an American, I can truly appreciate how selfish that is. But then also, they're not paying any extra either. and nobody's paying any extra. It's awesome that they would take the burden on themselves to where this is like, hey, we make less when we sell to European, but we still will sell to you, and I hope that you like the game. That is, again, good job. Good job. Seal of approval. Good job, Into the Unknown. They made some other changes as well. The item card here look awesome. I love the design of that. I love the colors. I love how clean it is. I love the crisp. It's great. They also changed the map. Now, this is a huge thing. I suspect that they might have to do both and let you choose. I don't know. So I guess I'll talk briefly about this. The old map looks awesome. It looks awesome. It does not match these cards anymore. These cards have changed, and this looks out of place. I'll say that right now. I love the old style look of it. I thought it was really cool, so I get the joy of that, but it does not match this at all. All the art in the game is this clean art here. Even like this stuff here, it's all very hardline, clean, not comic booky, but very modern style. And so I think this matches that a bit more. Additionally, you can get a little bit more life into it, like the gigantic snails here. Crazy story about the giant snails. I don't want to get no spoilers, but it's insane what happens when you deal with them. Anyway, so I like both for different reasons. At the end of the day, they're going to do whatever it is they do, and I'm sure the game itself will be amazing regardless of the map that you're traversing. Okay, moving on from that. Nemesis Distress PC video game, $20, or you're getting it for free if you're a backer of Nemesis Lockdown. A few things here. So this is by Ovid Works, and this looks like Alien Isolation. I own Alien Isolation. I love the alien theme. I think it's a great game genre that isn't well versed. This is going to be a multiplayer thing. You can hear like the captain talking over it. Now, all I want to do here, besides tell you that, hey, they're making a video game, is to curb your expectations. It will not look like this. This is making it look like Alien Isolation. It won't. This is a team of 15 people, and they have never made a game like this before. Oh, this Ovid Works. First of all, there's no HUD, there's no controls or anything like that. This is just a concept, a feel thing. Ovid Works has made 2 games before, VR games, 2 of them very indie, none of them multiplayer, so there's no netcode knowledge there, or anything like that. I want you to, this is going to be an indie game. It's $20 by 15 people who have never made a game like this before. So keep that in your expectations when you see this. It will not look like this. This is a pre-rendered cutscene. This is not how the game will be. Hope it's still fun. The hidden agenda in a multiplayer game sounds kind of cool. Being zoomed in on Nemesis sounds kind of cool. I'm actually kind of interested in it. I'm not expecting that, and therefore I might actually be happy with it. If you're expecting that, don't. Castle Panic Deluxe has been canceled. It's canceled Panic Deluxe. They canceled it, and I think it was smart. Essentially, their deluxeified version of it is adding miniatures, but just to the core game. All the expansions still don't match. They're going to come back and actually have the expansions. I think it's smart. Additionally, they released it to like no fanfare. They're the first time creators. They didn't really announce it very well except on their own stuff. They have no people like me dealing with them or any other, it doesn't have to be me, but no content creators that are actually like consumers or people like that, or even like, there's no Man vs. Meeple preview. There's nothing here. There's an old play where Will Wheaton played the original Castle Panic. Anyway, you gotta let people know your game's coming out. Transforming Mars Big Box is a big box. Look at that box. I love the art wraparound on there, by the way. Here's some of the tiles it'll be holding. This nuke one, I think, looks super cool. Looks like they're going to do kind of that clear plastic resin kind of stuff there. I just think it'll be neat. Obviously, that's going to take, it's going to be hard to store. It's going to be big. Limbo is coming out with a Kickstarter probably later this month. Sorry I didn't say that before, but yeah, be prepared for that. For the 75mm range, this is going to be like their Norse and dragons and stuff like that. I've shown you this art. I've shown you all these minis. I've shown you the mini here, the mini there, mini here, and mini here. So you've seen all these minis, but here's an example of some of their art that you maybe haven't seen. And it's going to be cool. It's going to be awesome. There's 75mm, by the way. Nuwa here, right there. She's 75mm. So that gives you kind of a sense of it. So if you're a big painter, if you just want a statue of a cool miniature, 75mm is the way to go. This is Clash of Rage 2nd Printing. I actually really like this game. I like it more than Small World and would rather play it in Small World. It's very loot-driven, which I like, and they have these full foil, awesome, legendary items that you can get in the gear, which is cool, and they have great-looking miniatures that are uniquely designed. I don't have other miniatures that look like this. This is final production, by the way. This is how it's going to look. I think it looks awesome, so looking forward to that. Next up, we have Tenaris Adventures, or Arena, the Contest 1.5, whichever one you want to call it by. This is their painted miniature. I'm impressed, I gotta say. A lot of times, I was kind of worried about this just because they didn't mention the operations. Operations for a painted miniature is painting a part blue is one operation. Painting the tongue pink is one operation. Adding the wash is one operation. Painting the bones, bone color is one operation. Highlighting is another operation. So the more operations you have, whether you dot the eyes or whatever, the better it typically looks because the more time is spent on the miniature. So, you know, even adding like this dry brush here is an operation. They didn't list that, so I was kind of concerned, but this looks great. If this is how they are doing it, it's a great purchase in my mind. I think the price is well put for that. Also, they showed all these crossovers. This is Nyx from Madera, for instance. It's so interesting to see these miniatures in Arena's art style. I think that's awesome. So here's Nyx, or here's the Titan from Alien Trespass Odyssey with this freaking like techno sword thing. Again, it's cool to see their take on it. Magenta from Dark Rituals painting that hair is going to be awesome. Anyway, these look great. They're Shredder. I don't care what you call them. That's Shredder. So that's super cool to see. Here's the kind of where they're at in production wise. A few things I would look at here. Whenever you get stacked bones or skulls close together like that, the shape of them, there's these little like spaces. And a lot of times they get really melty where there's not really a hard line to find here. So the fact that you're seeing all these bones crisp, or the fact that you're seeing all these eye sockets just as deep, none of them look like they're shallow, is a good sign. That's great. Now there is one thing I noticed here, and that's the inside of the rib cage. There's no texture. Not because the sculpt can't handle it, but because that just wasn't sculpted. So hopefully they can sculpt that in. But other than that, I'm happy with it. I think this looks great for a base. Here's the miniature design here. Again, it always depends on the design. A lot of times I would look at a nail like this, or a tooth, and see the ridge where the gum line is, and make sure that that's very standard. But it depends on the miniature here as well. With this one and his texture, it's all kind of blended together a little bit. You can see the crispness better here, where you can see the different shape. That's turning out great. It's going to look awesome. Next up, Kemet made a Cthulhu expansion, and it did not hit well. People hated it. I think it's kind of cool that here's Cthulhu in ancient Egypt, but I think ideas that are ridiculous like that are just cool. If you told me that there was an expansion where you had killer midgets with rocket launchers in Kemet, I would be like, what? I gotta see that. That sounds awesome. I'd be more interested at that point. I'm a simple guy. What can I say? I thought it sounded kind of cool, but a lot of people are like, no, that's not Egypt. No Cthulhu, which is fine. Because at the end of the day, backers are going to back what they want to back. And the backers of Kemet, by and large, not all of them, did not want Cthulhu. Now, what did they do? Well, at first they were like, hey, this is our creator decision, and our creative decision, you should support that. And actually, I do support, like, if you feel like this is what you want to create, then just have people to back what you want to create. So I get that. However, there is an opportunity to work with your backers, and that's exactly what they did. So, they are going to retheme the expansion based off of backer stuff, which is awesome. I think that's super cool. Additionally, they are still offering the Cthulhu thing, so both sides of the table are happy. If you want Cthulhu added to it, well, guess what? You get Cthulhu for about €7 more, which is awesome for I think they're like 70 millimeter tall miniatures there. So they're, fairly large and detailed and dynamic and kind of cool. I think it's a smart way to do it. I think it was bullet dodged, right? Next up, we have Madera 1.5. Yeah, it's late, delivered late Q3 2020 for Wave 1. However, here's a lot of Wave 1 stuff. Here's everything that's coming to Wave 1. We got an art book. We got the Madera Act 1 stuff. I'm excited to receive it. I've heard good things about the game. The art style is unique for what I own. I'm pretty happy with it. So looking forward to that. I did want to show these resin miniatures real quick. Again, always look at the chain. If the chain looks good, then it's a good miniature. And this chain looks amazing. Now, the style of Madera is kind of unique. So you notice that there's not like a lot of texture here. That's just the anime style that they have. It's very kind of crisp lines like that. If they need detail, they can do it. Look at the detail on that miniature, like the eye slits there. That's crazy good looking. The detail on his coat looks good. Again, that gun is going to turn out well. And again, the chain looks good. This is, again, the chains. Look at those chains. Yes, please. Give me those chains. It's going to take a wash. Awesome. Yeah, these are turning out well. These are going to look really good. Chronicle X is moving away from resin and towards hips in general. For Chronicle X Wave 2, the XXL models, or the large miniatures, as you can see there, are going to be in hips, not resin, which I think is great. I love hips plastic. It's a lot easier to work with than resin. It's a lot easier to print than resin, in my opinion. A lot of times, resin can hold a lot of detail, but it's also very hard to deal with and to print, and therefore can suffer, actually, detail-wise, in my opinion, over some hips, depending on what you make the resin out of, or the mold you even do the resin in. It can all be different. Maybe it's silicone, maybe it's not. Not getting all that. I think that's great. They're going to weigh less. They're going to have great detail. They're still going to come pre-assembled. It's a good move. Joan of Arc, Mythic Games released a updated reliquary for us to look at, and I can't say I'm impressed. It's good that they're working on it, and I'm glad they are. I just wish Mythic Games could produce printed material worth anything, like a passing grade in any college course. I would not get good grades for this if I turned this into a professor in my college years. As a company, you turning this into me, again, you're not going to get good grades either. I appreciate their work on it, and I think they still need to work on it. I want them to work on it, though, not me. For instance, I have no plans on reading this, and I'll tell you why. They can't even supply all of the pages. So right here, we got page 2. We got page 3. We got page 6. Wait a second. What happened to 4 and 5? Pages 4 and 5 are missing. They haven't had their dinner yet. I'm sure they're starving by now. Somebody go find page 4 and 5, get them some food, and put them back in this PDF, please. Poor pages 4 and 5. Look, I don't know how if you can't even give me all the pages, how am I supposed to even assume all this other crap is better now? If you just keep messing up. And it happens more. So on page 15, if you were to open up your box, like what they should have done, you would notice that 4B here doesn't look like this. This is flipped in Photoshop again. It does not match your art, which changes. This is the map of the game. If this 3 section tiles actually appear or wherever, then that's different. And then is it balanced anymore? I don't know. Those buildings would have to move. Is that okay? Do you have to redesign the whole scenario now because you flipped it? It's not that hard. Take each scenario, open up your box that you shipped to everybody, play out the tiles, see if it matches. If it doesn't, make an action item, note the action item, and go fix it. I don't know how are you missing 2 pages? I couldn't do this in my job. Why are you able to do this in your job? I don't know. They need a technical writer, at least. So, that's a bummer. Moving on from the bummer, Operation Wolfley, Mythic Games released this, and this is awesome. This is what you want to do. This is supporting the game continually, and I like seeing this. I like to see updated fixes for all the mistakes in the core box of the Reichbusters delivery, but this is still welcomed as well. This is a whole another mission. New scenarios for free. Link down below in the description. You can get this as well. That's really cool. I like the support of your games like that. That's awesome. Legends of Signum, don't back it. Do not give these people any of your money. Don't do it. They're liars and they're thieves. Similar to the Skill 75, Legends of Signum actually had, this is the second one, because the first one was on Kickstarter, and it was blocked while they were sued, and they only were unblocked after they removed a ton of their miniatures that they had stolen. So, first of all, it says they're in Los Angeles, which it was a lie then, it's a lie now. Just because you have a cousin in LA that entered with you one summer doesn't mean you get to say your company's in LA. Your company's not in LA. Do these look like LA names to you? They're not. They're in Russia. We know that because of the legal actions taken against them. They're Russian, which is fine. I don't care. Support it. I think Russians are cool, right? I mean, they're always awesome, especially Mr. Shark Dude over there. That's fine. But when a company lies about their location, even, it's like, why? Don't do that. Like, be upfront. That's what Kickstarter's all about. Speaking of being upfront, or this. Look at this. This is awesome. He's got like this beak chin thing and this cloak and these shoulder pad things. And then this guy here, he's got like the halo and this sweet looking old beard. And, oh, well, he did it again. There are plenty more. I couldn't find pictures of them because they've been removed for obvious legal reasons. But this was not 1 or 2 or 5. This was quite a few from different companies too. There was a Malifaux like steampunk chick with like this fan thing, and they sold that. They even painted it the exact same colors as the box art on Malifaux. So they just taken whatever it is. And again, there's nothing posted here. I'm all for companies improving. I'm all for companies being like, you know what, we messed up, we were doing things wrong, but we're clean now. Give us a second chance. We're going to do right by all the consumers. Do that often enough to where I actually trust you and act a certain way afterwards, and I'm all for it. I highly doubt, I haven't read all this, I can't be bothered. Because right now, like right here, I can't tell, so I could back it right now and not even know that they were thieves and liars. Be upfront about it and own it. Be like, hey, we realize it, we're doing better now, we hope you appreciate our extra effort. That's fine if you're upfront about it. And again, it's all about how you handle it. People make mistakes. That's not a mistake, but people make mistakes. I'm more interested in how you act afterwards. Speaking of mistakes, Scale 75. They reached out to me. They eventually saw my video, and they did not enjoy my video. Nobody that's caught in anything enjoys being caught. That's human nature, and I understand that. They claim that they are not. I guess what I'll say is the email that I got was very respectful and mature and well worded. Does that mean that I trust them? No, because this has been going on for years. But that doesn't mean that, I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt. So, hopefully they keep doing better. But words are cheap. Anybody can say words. In fact, when I talked about this, every time it happens, like, oh no, I'm so sorry. And then it happens again. Oh no, I'm so sorry. And then it happens again. We don't need apologies. We need it not to happen. So hopefully they get better. And hopefully, again, I'm all for supporting Scale 75 if they continue to be in the straight and narrow. But if they keep doing this, well, somebody posted something I thought was really cool. This is, I'm not going to pretend to pronounce it, res espa loquitur or whatever. It's a term, I believe it's actually like Latin, that essentially says it's the principle that the occurrence of an accident implies negligence. In other words, it's if this continues to happen over and over again, you're just being negligent. And at a certain point, that becomes on purpose. Again, maybe you just don't care enough to try and fix it. So hopefully they care enough to try and fix it. But I just wanted to let you guys know that they did respond and that they were quite cordial about it, which is good for them. Disagreed with some of their excuses, but at the end of the day, they handled it better than they could have. Okay, let's get on to some Kickstarters that are in right now. This is Merchants of the Dark Road. It's doing quite well. The most I have to say about this is I think their faces are freaky, and I don't... it's something about the eyes. I don't know. It looks like they're staring into my soul. All the other art, though, I feel is gorgeous. All these animals here and the tiles, and it looks very, very pretty. Minus their... Again, I don't like their faces. I don't know. Something's... Ugh. Dead Reckoning is going to be big. Look at that. Already almost 4,000 followers. They actually reached out to me, which I thought was really good of them to do, and they did it on their own. And it looks really good. One thing I will say here is this reminds me of Hate with the sleeves, and you upgrade it. It's a great mechanic, and I'm happy to see it catch on. I think that's awesome. It means first of all, it means that your cards are almost always protected because they have to have sleeves to function, which normally means they're supplied. But it just adds a lot of variability. So you can have that, and then you can combine it with other stuff, and it fundamentally changes. And I think that's a great way to do it. Additionally, it just looks kind of fancy. You get like this is the combat, as you're like rolling these colored cubes down into the waves, and it just looks neat. And pirates. Okay, this is The Age of Atlantis by Eldorado Games. Again, I didn't cover this one as either, but it's coming up here very soon. And it's kind of interesting. I normally don't like round boards. I think it's kind of inefficient and kind of weird. This is actually a round on a square, so there's other stuff going on. But this actually looks really cool. So you get this really cool miniature up there, and you got all these little buildings here, which I think are neat. And then you have like these, like here's Cerberus carrying a cube, which I just think is unique and crazy and kind of interesting. So looks interesting. I don't know too much about it, but it certainly looks pretty. Next up, we have Uprising, Curse of the Last Emperor. And again, these people also reached out to me on their own. So props to them for actually trying to, get the word out. It helps me because then I can tell you guys about it. The art here looks great. Now, it doesn't look like they have miniatures, at least not yet. They have a lot of standees. So they look like the nice, like plastic ones that actually look quite good. And it looks like you can get quite a bit of stuff on there too. The art here is just gorgeous. I love the art and the style. I think that looks great. Looks like a lot of dice. I'm all for dice. It looks like they do have some like these little tiny miniatures, but they're just like buildings. It looks like for the most part. But the people walking around are this kind of a standy looking thing. But either way, it looks good. Looks like they put a lot of effort into it. Kind of a fancy website and all that. So be on the lookout for that soon, I guess. Next up, we have Veil of Ruin. I forgot to mention this in my last one, but my understanding is they are coming out soon with this as well. And first of all, and I talked about this before, but look at kind of the video games that they're coming from. What I think is important is you can think about the creative design of those games and then kind of make a judgment based off that, right? Now, some of them are, like Dawn of War 2 and stuff like that, where they're part of an existing IP, but then you have stuff like Impossible Creatures. Who doesn't remember Impossible Creatures? Again, I'm a simple guy. A rhinoceros wasp? Heck yes. High pedigree of development in that. And they actually have a preview. So again, link in the description below, where you can kind of see all the stuff they're doing in. They're doing it in Canadian dollars, which means that it's less than American, which is awesome. And it's a 5e campaign with a whole lot of miniatures. And I mean, like, you can get pretty much everything you would need. You get all these different characters and a lot of different miniatures for them. You get like this sweet looking tree. They're doing STL files. They got bridges. They're really working on making this an end-to-end thing, and it looks actually like a good read and it looks quite interesting. So anyway, linked to that below. Next up, we have Plunderous. My understanding is this is coming out here soon as well, and it's kind of like a steampunk airship pirate game that everybody does. It looks very pretty, though. It looks very advanced, too. Like, I don't know what's going on there, but it looks like a lot of stuff there. But it's got dice. I do like dice, and it's got some weird snail mech, which, again, kind of like a snail mech. I could get down with a snail mech. So this is Plunderous. Okay, this is Mao Jia, or whatever you pronounce it as, and all I gotta say is, like, this image right here just makes me want it. This is, like, if you were to conceptualize what kind of game do you like, you would see something kind of like this. This looks like a great styled game. I love the art. I like the miniatures on it. I think it's looking great. So that looks cool. And they're really big on Board Game Geek. So again, link in the description below. They're posting all sorts of stuff. This one they're talking about this Titan miniature that they made. And look at all the different art. I love seeing this crap here. I hope they offer an art book with all this kind of stuff in it. I want to see that. Anyway, it looks really cool. So Toby from Shadowborn Games made a part 1 and a part 2, episode 1 and 2, on how to make a mini. And they talk about the different materials and undercuts and all this kind of stuff and how you would do it. I think if you want to be more discerning in the products that you're looking at, I highly recommend watching these. Again, link in the description below. I think it's well worth your time. It's just 12 minutes and 15 minutes. And consider we spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on these games. The most we can do is be a little bit more educated in how they're made so that we can understand when a company's BSing us or not, or when something looks like, oh, that'll actually work from a render. Because they always show us renders when at the end of miniature. This will help you kind of understand how that works. Next up, Monumental African Empires is coming. Monumental ended up having amazing looking miniatures. I'm quite jealous of it. I almost backed it. Like, I was close. I was very close to backing Monumental. I didn't pull the trigger. I can't remember why at the time, but I will definitely be looking into this because I've heard good things about the game. And again, the miniatures looked great as well. So if component quality is there and gameplay quality is there, I'm interested. So anyway, that is your update for now, at least. There's plenty of news, plenty of Kickstarters, plenty that I missed. This is on top of the other ones I'd already shown in my June video. If you haven't watched that, be sure to watch that. There's a lot of info on there as well. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think about all this. And if I miss anything else that's coming out very soon, you guys listed a whole bunch of stuff and I'm super thankful of it. I didn't choose to cover it all because some of it's more far reaching, and we'll do that in maybe a part 3 Kickstarters for 2020 video in the future. But with that, I hope you have an awesome rest of your day, rest of your weekend, and rest of your week. Keep on rocking, and I will talk to you very soon.